let's talk about one of the most powerful and, yeah, controversial figures in all of tech, Masayoshi Son. He's the CEO of SoftBank, and he's the guy who has poured billions into companies you probably use every single day. He has literally reshaped our world with these massive high-stakes bets. But here's the thing. To understand his genius, you first have to understand his greatest failure.
It all comes back to this one story. The spectacular, very public, and just absolutely humiliating collapse of WeWork. You know, the company that was supposed to change how we all work forever.
Because of Son's unshakable belief and, of course, his billions, WeWork was given this almost unbelievable valuation, $47 billion. Now, to put that into perspective, at the time, that was more than Ford or Delta Airlines. Just think about that.
And then, almost overnight, it all just vanished. Poof. The valuation completely evaporated, the big IPO was pulled, and the whole company just spiraled into bankruptcy. So, this brings us to the really crucial question. How did one of the world's most successful investors get something so catastrophically wrong?
To really get what happened here, we have to start with the man who was writing the checks. So this is Masayoshi Son. His company, SoftBank, it's not just another investment firm, it's more like a kingmaker. His strategy is actually pretty simple. Find a company he believes in and then just flood it with so much cash that any competitors simply, well, they drowned. Sometimes it works spectacularly, and sometimes, as we just saw, it really, really doesn't.
Son's super aggressive style didn't just come out of nowhere. No, to understand it, you have to go all the way back to his beginnings, to a time when he had absolutely nothing to lose.
This timeline right here, it gets to the very heart of his worldview. Son was born a third-generation Korean in Japan, and he faced severe discrimination. His family was poor. They were living in a house built illegally on railway land. His dad was a hustler. From day one, he was an outsider. And that experience, it fueled this relentless, unstoppable drive. A drive so intense that at just 16 years old, he managed to pester his way into a meeting with the head of McDonald's Japan.
And that one meeting completely changed the course of his life. He asked the executive what business he should get into, and the advice he got back became his life's mantra. Forget the old ways, focus on the future. And for him, that future was computer technology. So Son took that advice, and he just ran with it, building a massive empire during the dot-com boom. But this is where he learned his first really brutal lesson about betting big on the future. It's almost hard to even imagine, right? By betting everything he had on the internet, Son's wealth just exploded. For a very brief, shining moment, we're talking just 3 days, he was the richest man in the entire world. And then the bubble burst. And the fall was just staggering. He personally lost an estimated $70 billion. That's one of the largest financial losses in human history. His dream had officially become an absolute nightmare. Look at this. The devastation was total. SoftBank's stock price plummeted by 99%. His company, his fortune, his reputation, everything was right on the brink of being completely wiped out. But then, he made the one bet that saved everything. He met this young entrepreneur named Jack Ma. His company, Alibaba, had no real business plan, no revenue. But Son saw something. He later said he invested just based on the look in his eyes. That $20 million gut feeling turned into $90 billion, saved SoftBank from ruin, and cemented the legend of Masayoshi Son. So that massive win with Alibaba, it didn't just save him. It gave him the confidence and the cash for his most audacious project yet, the Vision Fund. The strategy was beautifully simple. And honestly, it was utterly brutal. You find the #1 player in a brand new field, you give them more money than they could possibly spend, and then you tell them to grow at all costs. The goal here wasn't profit. It was total, absolute market domination.
Now, to fuel this war machine, he raised an unheard of $100 billion. The story goes that he secured $45 billion of that from the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia in a single 45-minute meeting. That's $1 billion a minute. That is the insane scale we are talking about here.
And with all that capital, he invested everywhere. In companies you definitely know, like Uber and Nvidia, but also in some more, let's call them experimental ventures. Like pizza-making robots that, well, didn't quite work out.
The vision was to own a piece of every single major technological shift happening on the planet. And this brings us full circle, right back to WeWork. This is where Son's strategy, his powerful belief in charismatic founders, and an absolute ocean of cash all collided in the most spectacular way. In WeWork's founder Adam Neumann, Son thought he saw another Jack Ma, a visionary who could change the world. He didn't just invest, he pushed Neumann to be even more aggressive. When Neumann pitched his plan, Son famously told him that his vision simply wasn't crazy enough and that he needed to think even bigger. And here's the crucial point. On paper, none of this made any sense. Look at this. WeWork's biggest competitor, a company called IWG, was actually profitable and had more locations, yet it was valued at just a tiny fraction of WeWork. So how on earth do you justify a $47 billion valuation for a company that was burning through hundreds of millions of dollars every 6 months? So where did all that money go? Well, reckless global expansion, private jets, even a company-run kindergarten. But maybe nothing sums up the craziness better than this. The company paid its own CEO nearly $6 million just for the rights to use the trademark we. When the company finally imploded, thousands of employees were laid off, many with no severance at all. And the founder, Adam Neumann, he was given a golden parachute worth up to $1.7 billion just to walk away. You see, once the company was forced to open its books to the public for that IPO, the whole house of cards just collapsed. The valuation cratered, the dream died, and in 2023, WeWork officially filed for bankruptcy, marking one of the biggest investment disasters in modern history. So we're left with this huge question. Masayoshi Son has survived near total ruin before and somehow came back even stronger. He sees WeWork as just a painful lesson, not a failed philosophy. But is this strategy, overwhelming the market with cash, a brilliant way to build the future? Or is it just a gambler's addiction to risk that's bound to create another disaster just like this one? Honestly, that's something the entire tech world is still trying to figure out.